What is up, you guys? It is Alessandro Koenig, and we are on Conan's Cave. Today, we have a special guest with us, Johnny.
Thank you for having me.
So, Johnny, tell me about your passion. What lights you up and gets you out of bed every single morning?
Oof, good one. Okay. Truthfully, dancing. Like, I'm a huge dancer, as you've seen. We connected on that a bit. Outside of dancing, I started a page called Anxiety Easy where I help people overcome anxiety naturally. That's been a passion of mine, mainly because I struggled so hard. I think that's why most people want to be of service, right? They found, it was very difficult for them, and when they get to the other side, they're like, wait a minute, this roadmap's actually easy. If I could show you a few things, show someone a few chapters behind a few things, it would help them a lot. That's good.
So, how do you help people out? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, actually, because there's like a million things to do, right? Like before we started the podcast, you're like, working out for me was like it. Like I just worked out and I felt better. Like, like you tamed your inner bitch, for example, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Yep.
For everyone, it's a little different. Like for me, I think maybe that approach just wasn't appropriate. I maybe felt very disillusioned by a lot of things and a sense of unsafety. And that's really what anxiety is, right? I'm unsafe. I'm fearful. I feel like I'm threatened in some way. And so an approach that I found through a guy named Dr. Dave Berceli, who's like, if you know anything about the trauma community, like he's one of the 4 names you would know about, super awesome guy. Anyway, I stumbled in my early 20s onto his content. He had been talking about like this natural way to release trauma where your body actually shakes. And I'm like, ooh, interesting. I had a panic attack and I was shaking the other day. Okay, I could buy into that, where some people might see that and be like, weird. But I was like, well, I was literally shaking from a panic attack the other day. And so I started looking at his stuff, and he had like a workshop seminar, if you will, where you could come and participate in this, what's called trauma releasing exercises. Okay. So we went, and I was anxious as shit when I went there. I was like literally like a little 23-year-old scattered around like this. And I went through the exercises. He explained the nervous system in a way I'd never really seen before, where he kind of explained it on a bell curve, where it was kind of like, this is normal. This is social engagement. This is where you should be, but this is where you are. And it happened because of this underlying traumas. It could be one moment where your whole life, just like someone abused you, raped you, molested you, or maybe you got exploded because you're in the military and you watched a friend die. And like immediately your nervous system experienced so much stimulation, it just shut down. And that's where I was. I was in what's called like freeze state. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not. Explain that to me.
Okay. So if the nervous system has 3 parts, it's like 1 revs us up to run away from the threat. That's like someone's checking me, like as a dude, and like you're getting revved up, you want to fight them, fight or flight. Or if you're maybe a smaller guy like me, if you were checking me, I'd be like, all right, I'm out, right? I'm scared, I flee, fight or flight. That's anxiety. That's a level of arousal, if you can look at it more objectively, because it could be excitement. It could be at a show, and you get excited because we're at the show and I start dancing. That's still like a sympathetic arousal, right? That's fine. That we can have fun with that. There's a play in that. But when it gets beyond, when there's a level of fear, and trauma in the trauma world, that you believe you're actually going to die. So you have to believe you're going to die. You have to believe your life's over. So an example of that would be someone in the military who might be getting blown up, like PTSD, that kind of thing from the military. It's because they actually believe they're going to die. So their body, autonomic nervous system, shuts down, freeze. If you picture like a good one I like to picture is like when a gazelle runs through a field and a lion attacks it. Have you ever seen this? And it plays dead. Well, it looks like it's playing dead. It's freezing. The same thing our nervous system can do. When the lion leaves, if it survives, it actually will get up, shake, and then just go back to what it was doing.
No way.
100%. Yeah, it's brilliant. And we can do that. Every person, there's not one person that doesn't have this mechanism in them. If you can start to picture it as like a mechanism that automatically will bring us back to the present moment, back to social engagement. But we've inhibited it because when we do get shell shocked like that, the last thing we're going to let our body do is shake. Like that level of vulnerability to us is like, no, I'm not shaking. I'm a tough guy. Like I'm not crying. I'm a tough guy.
I like how you brought up fight or flight. So my version of anxiety when I struggled with it was actually fight. I was very aggressive, not like physically, but I was more of like a mental aggression, like with my words and just jumping to anger. Like that was my first
Yeah.
reaction with anxiety. It wasn't like run away. It was like face, like just jump to the problem. Like I'm so anxious about it. I just want to jump to it right now and
Yeah.
handle it now.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, like let's calm down for a second. And at that time, I really was just lost, right? I had no guidance. I wasn't around the right people. So we can
You were
target.
watching a lot of Rambo.
Exactly.
You were watching too much First Blood.
a lot of action films,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Got the bandana on and
That's
everything.
it. You've taken it too far.
Right?
Yeah.
But then when I realized like you are the 3 friends you hang around and you are your environment, that changed my whole life forever.
Mhm.
Because once I changed my environment and hung around like great people, I didn't have anxiety anymore. Obviously, the training was the biggest foundation that helped me get to those people, of course, but being around them, like you know how it is when you're around somebody that's very calm and peaceful. It's just an energy they give off. It makes you feel calm.
Oh, so good.
You
Yeah, really well said. Really well said. It's an invitation to a vibration, is the way I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
When I met Berselli, the guy I spoke to, the trauma expert, he's like someone that I really truly look up to as like the point of ultimate self-realization, that kind of thing. But, and you know, the person aside, when I met him, he showed me the modality, like this is how you do it. But when I met him and I was around him, he invited me into a vibration that was, I felt, if I had to put words on it, was just like unconditional love. Like he just looked at me and when I saw him, I'm completely dissociated. You know, as he's speaking to me, I actually had to repeat what he was saying back to me because my brain wouldn't process it. Because when you're dissociated or in that freeze state, most of your brain's not really operating like it would normally. It's hard to understand if you've never been in it, but the people, if you've ever experienced this dissociation, you know, it's very hard to comprehend what's going on. You don't really understand the world. So my point is, I didn't really know what he was saying. I didn't really understand the modality as much, but his unconditional love and just looking at me and assurance and certainty of like, you're going to be okay. That was enough for me to be like, okay, like follow through on the healing, if you will, because he invited me into that. Had I gone, you know, kind of like you're saying, into maybe, I don't want to say like my family or maybe people who don't really understand it or haven't experienced or integrated that level of suffering, they might judge it and say, you're doing something wrong. You should do this. You should do this. And then it kind of gets chaotic. So being around, the right people that are trying to achieve the same goals, or have achieved the same thing that you're trying to achieve, I mean, that's like a no-brainer.
Exactly. It sounds very similar to like what Tony Robbins did back in the day. Like he still does it now, but he used to do it a lot more back in the day, where he'd have somebody who's like depressed or have anxiety go to like the stage, and he literally like looks at them, pats them on the shoulder. He's like, dude, you're going to be fine. And you could see the look in his face. He's like depressed, like teary eyed. He goes from that to like, he smiles.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I haven't smiled in like 4 years. Like, that's crazy.
Oh my God.
The impact, but it's like also, who is Tony Robbins, right? He's not just some guy that like randomly walked up to him. He's an important figure. So it has something to do with his importance, but he built that up himself. And then the awareness and the knowledge he has to assist the individual because he knows what to do.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you said that, I thought of when he does the documentary, I'm Not Your Guru, the guy with the red shoes. And,
and
he's like, I literally want to kill myself. And he's like, but your shoes are red. And he's like, he like pattern interrupted him.
Yeah.
And then he just stared into him and he's like, I imagine what Tony's saying is like, or he's just embodying love. He's like, I love you. And he's just allowing that guy to like feel loved and seen for a second. And the guy's like, I'm safe. Nervous system. When the nervous system comes down like that, there's a release. There's a shaking. There's a crying. There's a weeping.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like the biggest thing I see with anxiety is people go to like the end all be all. Like, I can't change. I want to change this thing, but I can't change. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, if you don't like the way you look, do something about it, right? Go work out, right? Whatever you got to do.
It's good.
But make sure that what you're doing is going to make you happy. It can literally be anything, right?
Yeah.
You could be going to get a treatment. You could be going to get Botox. Who knows? But be sure it's going to make you happy. And don't be the person that's just laying in your bed like, I can't do anything to change my situation. Because everyone has the power to do it. You know, after really looking into David Goggins and what he went through, it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah. People say he's one of a kind. But that mentality of him jumping out of his situation, anybody could do. Really, anybody could do it. Obviously, not everybody's going to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
But you can still do that. It's just figuring out a roadmap. How am I going to change what I don't like about myself? When you're depressed, It's your body telling you that it doesn't like what you are currently, and you got to do something to change that. And once you change it, you're now happy. So it's the same thing with anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like your body's saying like, whatever you're doing, bro, it's not working for us. Do something different. And that's what really helped me, like help others and just help myself out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the way you say that, it speaks to a particular individual at that level of what I would say consciousness. Like it's going to land for certain people that maybe have seen that, like maybe in the past you were an athlete or something. So you've seen yourself fall through on that. So it's easy to buy in as an adult, right? Like, dude, just get it together, bro. And you're like, okay, I know how to do this. And you just need to be reminded. And some people that go through different traumas have built different identities with things. It's a little bit more nuanced. They're not going to respond to the, you just got to do it. Because there could be so many blockages around what they even believe is possible, right? Like when I was 21, before discovering all this, I get in a car accident. I'm hit head on by a drunk driver. You know, I get this massive TBI. That's where the anxiety starts, right? And at that, you can't tell myself at that time, like I didn't really know it was going to be possible to heal. Like I didn't really know what was going on. Like, can I get out of this? Is this healing? Why do I, everything's very foggy. You know, it's like, it's a little bit different than someone who's maybe in a slump. You see the difference, like trauma and someone like trauma anxiety is more of like my interest. That's interesting to me. Whereas someone may be going through a tough season, it's similar, but maybe they could change a couple of things and that would, they would drop back down to what I would call social engagement, where you're like empowered again.
I believe like what you, like literally what you just said, if you had a person in that situation that their belief system was limited, I'm going to throw them in the gym. Not in an aggressive
Throw
way.
them in a cold plunge and put their head
like
under.
just drop them in there.
You can't do, how much do you bench press?
Don't
lie. Don't lie. We're testing.
The last time I bench press was like 310.
Okay,
pounds.
310. So we're not going to go to the guy who's just started working out saying go bench 310. We're going to meet him where he's at. It's like, okay, for you, this is what we're going to do. And it's like, I feel that's where the healing happens. When you meet people where they at, they feel seen, they take one step forward. Now they go from hopeless, helpless, which is I can't. That's freeze state in the nervous system, to I can. And then you create momentum, which you've seen in your own life, like then turns into this.
Yeah. I mean, I love to say this because it's so true. It's like having low self-esteem is severely connected to bad anxiety. Like when you don't have like any self-esteem in yourself and you have nothing to be passionate about, that is the worst thing for your brain. Now you're overthinking everything. You're like, where do I go from here? I'm bored. Boredom's the worst thing for anxiety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm curious where do you think like self-esteem regulation where do you think we build that? Where do you think it comes from?
In many areas of your life, right?
Yeah.
Spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional. So you could be hitting all four and be an emotional wreck as far as like the way you respond to rejection, people in general when they're disrespectful to you, right? Or you have everything in check, right? You're working out, you're getting your work done for your job, right? You're respectful to people no matter what they do. Like you could be giving free work to people and they could spit in your face, not like literally, but like just do some crazy disrespectful stuff. And you're like, all right, goodbye. Like, I wish you the best. And you're just calm, passive, move forward. And then obviously like the biggest one, which is like working out, because working out is going to connect everything together. Like that's your physical, right? It's so important to have. So I believe like that's all the factors in building self-esteem, because now you're living a productive life, you know, of purpose, right? Where you're like, dang, I could live up to be this because I'm following this. It's not a pipe dream where you're like, oh, I want to be a multi-billionaire, but you don't know what you're going to do to make billions of dollars. It's like, that's a pipe dream, man. You have to have a roadmap that gets you to whatever is on your brain. Whatever you lose sleep on, you're like, I really want to be like this, or I want to do this. What's the roadmap to back it up? Right? And that's what builds the self-esteem. Like, I'm not going to quit because I love this no matter what.
That's good. Yeah. And I think people all have a different definition of what success is, what it's going to mean for John to be successful in this life. And I think when we're feeling shitty, depressed, it's because our life is not providing the pleasure that we actually want. Like I say pleasure, people think it's like hedonistic or negative, but it's like anything you do is to derive some type of pleasure and experience. I want to have this experience. You want to have the podcasting, cinematography experience. You know, I want to have the dancing fun, laughing experience. I'm not right. You're not right. We're both right. I want to speak to the person that's like hopeless, helpless, or in extreme panic, and they feel like I don't know what to do. I don't know a way out of this. Like, it's instead of focusing on like what you don't want and what other people have, because Instagram does a good job of
I
that.
love that.
Really get internal, because a lot of times the external is a reflection of the internal. And so if you can get in an internal state of love, acceptance, surrender, in your case, like surrendering, accepting everything as it is, and then allowing creativity, literally, quite literally, creative energy to come through and like, okay, what do I actually desire? And just start putting focus there. It's almost a lighthearted, playful approach to it. I like the word lighthearted because it literally changes our physiology when we say it. It's like, things are so tough. It's like lighthearted. What do I actually want? And then put focus there. And then like just start having fun and more playful energy towards that thing. That it simplifies the process. Instead of saying, I want what he has, she has, he has. Like, what do you actually want? Because you get to pick your experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to make people unhappy to make yourself happy. That's probably the hardest thing that I had to learn myself, right? I wouldn't say I used to be a pushover, but I used to be somebody that was too nice to people. Like, I was too of a yes guy. Say yes to everything. It's like, no, you got to be able to have the balance of putting your foot down and, hey, I got to get this work done, or hey, I can't do this right now, or I can't go to this event, right? That takes a lot, because I was even the guy that couldn't even cut off a conversation. I'll just like let it flow, let it flow, let it flow.
Yeah.
Because I just would feel bad. And I realized, like, don't feel bad about that. Like, if you got places to go to, if you got stuff to do, like, they're not going to feel bad. And you overthinking that is where you get your anxiety from. Whenever you overthink those situations, when really in their head they're like, oh, he's busy. They're not like, oh, he's an asshole. He had to cut me off. That's the anxiety talking. The real person inside is like, hey, man,
I'm good.
We're good.
Yeah.
That's
a good way to think about it. Yeah. I like to say like our spirit's always in heaven and we're just trying to remember that is how I think about, like, if you're ever getting anytime you're feeling resistance in general, there's probably some level of belief you have that you're holding on to, that you believe you need to hold on to produce some result, but it's actually causing this level of negativity and resistance, but you believe it's a good thing because it gets you something. But if you actually let go of it, you may get something that's greater in value to you. And so,
yeah. I like the Instagram. That's talked about a lot, how it is so easy. Like, if you want to really ruin your in the moment happiness of just being proud of yourself, go on Instagram, because you instantly go to the people that have more than you. That's just how the psychology of your brain works. You're going to go to the flashier cars, the nicer house, the prettier women, and you're going to be like, oh, he's living the life, but you don't even know what's going on behind the scenes, right? That's why I like how you say, like, it's a reflection of who you are, right? If you're posting all that stuff 24/7, who are you really as a person? Are you a whole person? Or are you just somebody that cares about instant gratification and I want this now, and I'm going to show off, right? But if you're the person that is maybe might have the same amount, if not more money, but you're not posting that all the time and you're actually posting about helping others or just productive things, then who are you as a person doing that? Well, you're a great individual because you're not letting money define you. You're not letting the external define you. That's the worst thing you could ever do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're saying placing your value.
No, that's good.
You can't do that.
Right. The external, that's been a big thing even for me, like personally lately, is just like less reactiveness. And because the external is always changing. And so if I'm constantly reacting to the external, then like I'll never have peace. I'll never be centered. And so I feel that's like the thing that I'm working on. I think that's the thing that we're all working on is whatever happens. Kabbalah teaches this. I'm repeating something that I learned from Kabbalah, but whatever has happened, pause. What a pleasure. Why is this in my movie? What is this showing me? And just being, and so what that does is it conditions you for gratefulness in all things and having certainty that everything that happens is for the good.
Right. And then you brought up like playful energy, which is really important because, like, say like I'm editing a really tough, extensive project and I'm like creative, driven, boom, 4 or 5 hours in. I'm not driven and creative anymore. Like, I got to get it done. Is the energy playful?
Yeah,
it's no longer playful.
It's no longer
because I overextended myself instead of taking the time to rest and maybe play a video game, maybe go watch a little bit of TV, whatever it may be. I'm not working smart because my brain's hurting. been staring at the screen for 4 hours. You know?
I can totally relate to that. Yeah. I love to edit videos and stuff. And one of the ones I made, a Prince video, was on my birthday. And I was so excited about it. I sat there for 16 hours straight. Didn't move. When I was done, I didn't even feel like a person. I was like, what just happened? But something about that creative process, like tentacles come over and it just starts moving the keyboard and you don't even know why things are going where, but it makes sense. I think that's fun about the creative process, is that you don't exactly know why you moved one thing here or there, just felt good. So you did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something to be said about that. It's like when you're in the editing process and you're playful, that's coming from a place of play. Then it gets to the point where the mind says, well, you got to make sure you get this done, because if you don't this, and then now we're coming from a place of lack, and you literally can see the shift in the outcome. It's
Right.
like,
So I talk about planning things out, right, in advance, making sure you have blocked time to do this, and that. Like, my life is so balanced at this point. I'm a firm believer, and I can't wait to have somebody on my podcast to argue this point. But this is the one thing I disagree with that David Goggin brings up.
Let's
He
go.
says if you are over obsessed with something, you're going to be the best in your field. That's one way to be the best in your field. He goes, but if you are balanced, you can't be the best in your field. It's like, no, that's wrong. Actually, you might be able to be better than anybody that's ever done it because of your balance, because you're not stressing yourself out. You're not getting all this inflammation, all these external issues because you're stressed, because the body doesn't like to respond to stress like that. Body likes to respond to a certain amount of stress, but when you overextend yourself and you go above that amount, you're screwing yourself in the long run because you can't be productive. So it's having the balance of like, I'll edit for like 5 hours and I'll literally take a 30-minute break, maybe an hour break, watch a little TV, meal prep, clean the crib. And then I go back to editing, bro. And my creative drive is just on point. And I bust out another like 4 hours probably. But it's because I'm taking these breaks, because I'm working with myself. What works with me? I'll never put stuff that I do on other people, because I want to emphasize you got to figure out what works for you. But these are the steps to do it. Go through a situation where you overextend yourself and be like, what am I doing wrong?
that's
Right?
good. Where do you think that creative energy comes from? Because sometimes it feels like you have it, sometimes you don't. Why and when do you think it comes?
People, man. Because I know that I am creating work for an audience. That's why I love it so much. Because it's funny, when I first started and I didn't really have an audience at all, I still believe that there's people watching, because you never know. Just because your stuff doesn't have likes, you never know who's going on your page and looking at your stuff. So I always had that in the back of my brain. And I'm a big believer in, if you're going to do something, go 110%. So that's where my creativity comes from, is like, I don't want to half-ass anything. I want to build stuff up and think outside the box with a team of people. That's why I say that people get my creativity, because I'm a thief. I'm a thief at heart, bro.
What if there's, okay, I like that. Now, thinking about it a different way, what if there's someone out there that's like, I don't feel creative. I want to create. I know I want to, but I'm not feeling creative. How do I prime myself to get in a creative state?
You're not talking to enough people. Everyone has a different mind. It's a beautiful thing, man. Like, if we were all the same, imagine how boring the world would be. But our minds are all constructed in different ways, to where if we just talk to enough people, we'll come up with an idea. You ever see the part in a TV show when, like, in the crime scene and the lawyer's trying to figure something out, and he just has a random conversation with somebody, and he goes, "Oh, I figured it out," because he was talking to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
His creativity was disconnected. He starts talking to somebody about the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They bring something up. The mind gets going. Oh, shoot. 1 + 1 is 2. We're good.
Yeah, that's good.
But it's because you took the effort to like discuss it with somebody. So like, if I'm doing something I've never done before, like maybe like I'm at NASA, say for example, hypothetically, I'm going to go talk to people that are either in that field or like astronauts or love space, and see what they think I should do. I'm going to talk to them. Hey, bro, what do you think about this? Nah, bro, you should do it like that, because I love space. I'm addicted to it, and this is what we should do. Oh, shoot. Okay. Let's try it out. I've never even thought about that. But it's the fact that you're constantly trying your creativity. You can't just expect it to come out of you yourself. If that was the case, we'd all be screwed.
I think
You know, it's people that we get inspiration
yeah,
from.
that's interesting. I think about it in a different way, but when you're saying it that way, I can think of times where okay, I've made a really good dance video, let's say, like one that I just like was like, man, that was so much fun to make. Like I could just feel it. And it's because I met a girl that week. Like a girl was my muse. Like she inspired me. Some conversation I had with her beauty, like not to get too sappy, but like the beauty of a woman sometimes will drive my creativity to want to make a video. So I find that interesting. I never really thought about it in that context, but if I look back at the times there was big changes going on in my life, or some person had come into my life, and then I felt, oh, I want to go skate and make a video. I want to go do this and make a video, you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
For me, it's like the emotions
Mhm.
over the beauty. So it's like what the person's feeling that gives my creativity going. So
Mhm.
she could be crying, she could be sad, happy. It's just that certain emotion that'll get me going where I'm like, oh my goodness, I can color grade it this way to fit that emotion
Yeah, yeah.
and add this in the scene as a prop to
Mm.
like make it more fulfilling, right?
Mm.
That's what gets me because that's like cinematography 101.
Mhm.
And as far as like the beauty of a woman, right? That's going to be like a second muse after the emotions because the emotions is the main hitter and then it goes to the beauty after. So that wraps it up for Conan's Cave, guys. Thank you, Johnny, for getting on here and just chopping it up with me, bro. Had a great time.
Yeah, man, that was fun.
And until next time, guys.